Wait a second. Did Brad Bell just casually leak that The Bold and the Beautiful is heading into a murder mystery? Not a metaphor, not a vague tease about danger, but an actual murder mystery, dropped almost in passing, like he forgot the audience was listening. And if that's what happened, then everything fans thought they knew about where this show is headed may be about to flip upside down, because this is not the kind of reveal you toss out unless something big, strange, and potentially explosive is already moving behind the scenes. And the story gets even weirder when you line that comment up with a dark little social media teaser, a smirking Sheila Carter, a script in hand, a martini on the table, and one very loaded message that sounded less like promotion and more like a warning. This is Soap Pulse. I'm Anderson, and if you love smart soap deep dives like this, hit like, share this with your fellow fans, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because this one has layers. Now, let's get into the part that should have every bold and beautiful viewer asking the same question. What is really going on here? Because on the surface, The Bold and the Beautiful is not the soap most people associate with murder mystery chaos. This is a show built on glamour, power, family dynasties, fashion houses, seduction, betrayal, old grudges, and emotional warfare in designer clothing. Yes, B&B has done dark material before. Yes, the show absolutely knows how to weaponize obsession and revenge. But there is still a major tonal difference between a soap that occasionally uses danger and a soap that appears to be setting up an actual whodunit. That's why this matters. If a daytime audience hears that phrase coming from a random fan account, it's one thing. If that phrase comes out of the mouth of Brad Bell, the man who has been steering this franchise for decades, that is something else entirely. And here's why fans immediately locked onto it. Brad Bell wasn't making some giant formal announcement with dramatic music playing underneath him. He was having a conversation on a podcast hosted by Rebecca Budig and Greg Ricart, two people who know soaps from the inside out. Rebecca, who currently plays Taylor Hayes on B&B, was talking about one of the pleasures of working in daytime, that actors get to do a little bit of everything. She mentioned laughing, crying, anger, all the emotional swings that make soaps unique. And Bell agreed. But then he added the line that sent this whole thing into orbit. He said, "You're doing murder mystery now and then something campy and ridiculous." That is the phrase. That is the moment. And if you're a long-time soap watcher, you already know why it hit so hard. It didn't sound polished. It didn't sound like a pre-packaged promo line. It sounded like somebody speaking naturally and maybe saying a little more than he meant to say. Now, to be fair, journalistic responsibility matters here. There are two ways to interpret that comment. One interpretation is that Bell was simply speaking broadly about the range of soap storytelling. In other words, he could have been saying soaps let actors bounce from one kind of material to another, from mystery to camp to heartbreak. That's possible. It would be irresponsible to present that line as a confirmed plot synopsis when Bell himself did not stop the conversation and say, "Yes, the audience should expect a murder mystery arc." But that's only one side of it. The other interpretation is the one fans instantly heard, that Bell was referring to material currently in play, material active enough that Rebecca would understand exactly what he meant, and casual enough in his mind that he said it out loud before realizing how closely people would parse every word. And on a soap, words like that are never just words. They are clues. What made the situation even harder to dismiss was the timing. Around the same stretch of time, the show's official social media put out a teaser centered on Kimberlin Brown, the actress behind Sheila Carter. In the clip, she's moving through the space with a script, flipping pages, climbing stairs, pouring a martini, and smirking in a way that did not exactly scream redemption arc serenity. The text on the teaser used the phrase, "Kimberlin warming up to kill her scenes," with kill emphasized, and the caption basically said, "Don't say we didn't warn you." Now yes, that kind of wording can be read as playful hype. Entertainment marketing loves double meanings. Kill can simply mean giving a knockout performance. But when you place that next to Belle's murder mystery remark and then place both of those next to a show that has been quietly restocking old tensions around Sheila, Taylor, Finn, and Steffi, suddenly what looked like harmless promotion starts feeling like a breadcrumb trail. And this is where the investigation really begins, because the most interesting question isn't just whether Belle leaked something. The more important question is what kind of murder mystery B&B would even do. That matters because this show does not usually operate like a gritty police procedural. If B&B goes dark, it goes dark in a very specific soap way. It mixes danger with emotion, legacy, obsession, mistaken assumptions, false identities, and those signature twists where the audience realizes too late that a death may not be a death, a victim may not be a victim, and the obvious suspect may be exactly who the writers want you to focus on, while the real game plays out somewhere else. We also have to talk about recent history because the show is not entering this conversation from nowhere. The last major murder-centered material involved the deaths of Tom and Hollis, and that mystery eventually circled back to Luna. That's important for two reasons. First, it proves B&B has already reopened the door to more openly lethal plotting. Second, it clarifies that the old mystery engine has been shut down. In the same podcast conversation, Belle was asked whether he would ever bring Luna back, and his answer was blunt. He said he wished he could bring back Luna, but Luna is dead. Again, this is daytime, and soap audiences know dead can become negotiable if a story wants it to be. But taken at face value, Belle was telling viewers not to count on Luna as the current puppet master. So if a fresh murder mystery is coming, the show may be preparing a new architect of chaos. And let's be honest, when viewers hear Architect of Chaos on The Bold and the Beautiful, one name rises above everybody else: Sheila Carter. No matter how many times Sheila tries on reform, she never fully escapes her own legend. That is the trap of being Sheila. Even when she is quieter, more controlled, more sympathetic, more seemingly sincere, the audience never stops waiting for the crack in the mask. That's not unfair paranoia, that's the entire history of the character. Sheila is one of daytime's most iconic wildcards because she doesn't just commit dangerous acts, she changes the emotional temperature of a room the second she walks into it. You don't need her to hold a weapon for people to feel threatened. Her presence does the work. That is why one of the strongest theories making the rounds is also one of the most deliciously soapy. What if Sheila stages her own death and frames Taylor? Think about how much emotional devastation that would cause in one move. Sheila is furious over losing ground with the people she most wants close. Her connection to Deacon is unstable. Her hope of fully re-entering Finn's life keeps colliding with Steffi's resistance. Taylor's presence complicates everything, so imagine Sheila deciding that if she can't have the life she wants, she can at least destroy the emotional balance of everybody else's. A staged death blamed on Taylor would be classic weaponized chaos. Taylor loses her freedom. Steffi loses her mother to scandal or prison. Deacon is shattered and confused. Finn is thrown back into the impossible gravitational pull of Sheila, guilt, and family fracture. And perhaps most telling of all, the audience would instantly believe Sheila is capable of it because she has played variations of the fake death game before. If B&B wants a murder mystery that fits its own DNA, this theory fits almost too well. But there's another version of that theory, and in some ways, it's even stranger. What if the victim isn't Sheila at all? What if Taylor is the one who appears to die? Longtime viewers know Taylor Hayes has one of the most soap-operatic presumed death histories on the board. This is a character whose past already includes outrageous disappearances, returns from the dead, and bizarre abduction-style turns that feel ripped from a particularly feverish era of daytime storytelling. That matters because Bell's comment on the podcast didn't just invoke murder mystery. In the same broader conversation, he also acknowledged the wonderfully broad, campy side of soaps. That's a clue in itself. A straight murder plot would be one thing. A murder mystery wrapped around a fake death, old enemies, a hidden accomplice, and a dramatic reveal that the victim isn't actually dead. That's pure B&B territory, and if the show wants to blend suspense with nostalgia, reviving the spirit of one of Taylor's earlier dead but not really dead patterns would be one way to do it. Then there's the possibility that the writers go in an entirely different direction and choose a victim based less on legacy mythology and more on audience reaction. In other words, what if the target is someone the show can afford to place in jeopardy because the fan base is already restless? R.J. Forrester is one name that keeps surfacing in that kind of conversation. And let's be clear, that's not because there is any public confirmation he's on death row as a character. It's because viewers often look at a murder mystery through two lenses at once: who makes story sense and who would create the biggest emotional shock while also activating a lot of strong fan reaction. RJ fits that category for some viewers because he sits at the center of major family power lines while also generating frustration among fans who see him as annoying, overprotected, or dramatically undercooked. If something appeared to happen to Ridge's son, the suspect list would immediately explode. Ridge would blame the wrong person in record time. Existing tensions with Will could erupt. Old resentments between families would intensify. And if B&B wanted to create a temporary who attacked him mystery without permanently killing off a legacy heir, an apparent death or presumed fatal attack could generate weeks of suspicion before a last-minute reversal. Speaking of expendable suspects and usable victims, another possible lane involves the younger and more disposable corners of the canvas, especially characters whose main purpose has already been to stir trouble. Remy is one example people keep circling for that very reason. Characters like that often exist in a sweet spot for soap writers. They are developed enough that viewers know them, dislike them, or at least have a strong opinion about them, but not so central that their loss would damage the long-term architecture of the show. That makes them perfect for murder mystery mechanics. They can be real victims, fake victims, blackmailers, plotters, or decoys. And if the show wants a smaller-scale mystery that still sends shockwaves through a romantic triangle or family conflict, using someone like Remy makes strategic sense. It is the kind of move that lets the writers generate suspense without blowing up the core hierarchy of the franchise. And then we get to the other theory that soap fans love because it combines obsession, jealousy, and pure bad judgment, a murder setup built around Will's love life and one of the women orbiting him. This is where the story starts to feel less like a clean mystery and more like a psychological trap. If a romantic rival re-enters the picture and tension escalates, it would not be hard for the writers to engineer a scene where the wrong woman gets blamed, a threat is overheard, evidence is planted, and everybody thinks they know what happened before the facts actually line up. That kind of story is catnip for daytime because it lets the show play with point of view. One character looks guilty, another character acts too calm, a third has motive but no opportunity, and if the writers wanted a truly nasty twist, they could even flirt with the idea of an off-screen manipulator trying to remove both a rival and a legal obstacle in one move. Again, that would be speculation, not fact, but it's exactly the kind of layered misdirection that makes a soap murder mystery work. What makes all of these possibilities so compelling is that every theory says something different about the future of the show. If Sheila is behind it, B&B is embracing legacy villain energy and leaning into its own history. If Taylor becomes the apparent victim, the show is reaching for classic soap chaos with a melodramatic revival feel. If RJ or a younger character becomes the center of the mystery, then Belle may be using suspense to recharge newer story lanes that haven't fully connected with the audience. And if the victim turns out to be someone more disposable, then the real goal may not be shock at all, it may be acceleration. A murder mystery, even a fake one, is an engine. It forces confessions, exposes alliances, creates panic, and turns conversations that would normally play out over months into emotionally urgent confrontations. And there's another layer most casual viewers may miss. Brad Bell has been talking openly about expansion, momentum, and the future-facing side of the brand. He has discussed new projects around the show's app, and even broader creative ambitions. That matters because a murder mystery is not just a story choice, it is an event strategy. In a crowded entertainment environment, soaps need viewers to feel that something can happen any day that is too big to ignore. A line like, "something changes their life forever," is not just plot language, it is audience conditioning language. It tells fans this isn't filler, this isn't just another week of recycled romantic indecision. This is supposed to feel like an inflection point. So even if Bell's murder mystery line was partially casual, it may still reveal a deeper truth about where he wants the show's energy to go. Bigger, sharper, stranger, more talked about. And maybe that's the most fascinating part of this entire situation. The real exposure here may not be the identity of a future victim. It may be Bell accidentally exposing the storytelling formula itself. When he said, "Soaps let you do murder mystery," and then something campy and ridiculous, he may have described the exact blend B&B is aiming for. Not a sober crime saga, not a grim procedural. A glossy, high-emotion, possibly outrageous mystery where danger lives right next to absurdity, where a martini can feel menacing, where an accidental remark on a podcast can detonate weeks of fan speculation, and where the audience starts investigating before the show has officially admitted there is anything to investigate. That is why the fan reaction has been so intense. Some viewers are thrilled because they think the show needs a jolt, something messier and riskier than the usual romantic cycling. Others are cautious because they don't want B&B to lose the identity that made it work in the first place, and both sides have a point. A murder mystery can energize a soap, but only if it serves character and not just shock. If it becomes a gimmick, audiences turn fast. But if it grows naturally out of obsession, jealousy, revenge, and old wounds, it can become the exact kind of story people talk about for years. The great soap mysteries aren't memorable because somebody died. They're memorable because the mystery revealed who everybody really was under pressure. So now we're left with the question that matters most. Was Brad Bell merely giving an example, or did he let the audience glimpse the next big machine before it fully starts turning? Right now, publicly available information gives us clues, not certainty. We have a loaded quote, we have ominous promotional messaging, we have a show with recent murder-related history, a supposedly dead former killer, an iconic legacy villain who is never far from suspicion, and a separate tease that something life-changing is tied to major characters. That is enough to raise eyebrows. More than enough, actually. It is enough to make the audience watch every Sheila scene differently, hear every threat more carefully, and wonder whether the next smiling family moment is really just the setup for a fall. And that may be the genius of it. Because whether this was an intentional leak or an accidental one, the effect is the same. Brad Bell has fans looking at the bold and the beautiful like a crime board now. Every glance matters, every alibi matters, every old grudge suddenly feels usable again, and on a show built on beauty, status, and carefully curated appearances, maybe a murder mystery is the perfect disruption after all. Because nothing exposes a family faster than fear, nothing shreds glamour faster than suspicion, and nothing reminds viewers why soaps endure quite like the moment when a polished world cracks open and everybody realizes they may have been trusting the wrong person the entire time. If that is where B&B is headed, then this is bigger than a spoiler. It is a warning shot. And if the bombshell Bell dropped turns out to be real, then the most dangerous thing on this canvas may not be who dies. It may be what the mystery reveals about everyone still standing when the truth finally comes out.